The end scale layout expansion has started. Let's see what I've gotten done. As I mentioned previously, I'm a little bit nervous to get started on the track work as I've not done a lot with FlexTrack. So in this video, I started with some of the electronics. On my planned layout, there are about 4 locations where I might have locomotives just sitting when not in use. So what I've decided to do is add some switches so that I can turn off these tracks so that the locomotives do not keep drawing power. With DCC, there is always power going to the track. So in order to ensure that my locomotives aren't constantly energized, I'm going to be adding switches to the areas where the locomotives might be sitting while not in use. There are 4 main areas this might occur: the time saver, which I've already built, the staging yard, the main yard, and the industrial area. The switches that I'm setting up right here are for the main yard. My plan is to have 8 separate power zones that I can turn off if I want. I'm attaching 90-degree brackets so that I can mount the switches underneath the layout. While power blocks are not required for DCC, I've decided to use them in case I want to later add block detection. My bus wires will run to each bank of switches, and then from there I can attach the feeders to each individual switch. The bank of rocker switches that I got are usually for cars, boats, RVs, or trucks. In this case, I'm going to be using them on my model railroad. I got 3 different sizes of switches. I have an 8 gang for the main yard, I have a 3 gang for the industrial area, and then I have a 6 gang for my staging yard. My staging area has 6 tracks which will always contain out-of-town trains that are coming onto my railroad. For this reason, I want to be able to turn off each track so that the locomotives are not receiving power until I choose. The switches for the staging yard and the industrial area are being screwed into a metal piece of C-channel that I'm using to keep this section of the benchwork straight. Therefore, I'm using self-tapping metal screws for this application. For the 3 gang switch in the industrial area, I'm using a right angle adapter on my screw gun. The 8 gang switches for the main yard are planning to go right next to the Peninsula. For this reason, I am rotating one of the 90-degree hangers so that it better fits under the benchwork. This bank of switches will be attached with wood screws. I'm not sure exactly which tracks in the main yard I'm going to use with these switches yet, but there are plenty of options. Once I got the switches in place, I moved on to mounting the Peninsula. I want this to be on a set of hinges so that I can lower it down out of the way. Due to the offset on the hinges between the leaf and the pin part of the hinge, I'm adding some blocking to raise up the leaf, leaving enough room for the pin to swing freely, as I want this shelf to be able to move freely and ensure that the tracks are going to align correctly. I start by screwing in the center holes on the leaf. I really hope that I'm putting this screw in a lot straighter than it looks in the video. Once I secure the hinges with the center screw, I then recheck alignment and then go back and add screws into all the remaining holes. The support leg that I'm using to hold up the Peninsula is actually a light stand. So I'm mounting the Peninsula to the light stand, and then I will align it with the rest of the benchwork. I got out a torpedo level to make sure that everything was as level as possible before I attached the Peninsula to the benchwork. I pre-drilled all the holes so that I did not split the wood. I apologize for the glare. It was a nice day out, so I had the window open. I followed the same process to screw the hinges into the benchwork, starting with the center hole and then moving to the 2 outside holes on each hinge. And now to test to see if it works. I am happy to report that everything lines up just as I expected. I put off starting the track work for just about as long as I could, but I knew I had to get started. I've purchased all the track for the main line. First, I'm going to set the main line, and then after I ensure that everything is in the right place, I'll purchase the rest of the track for the main yard, the staging yard, and the industrial area. My initial intention was to use push pins to hold down all of the turnouts. But after evaluating things, I don't believe this is necessary. I'm going to focus on getting the flex track in the right place, and then leave all of the turnouts to sit freely between the flex. For the expansion, I'm using Code 55, Peco, Electrofrog, and Unifrogs. My first choice is Unifrogs, but they only make left and right hand turnouts in the Unifrogs at this point, so my double crossover and my Ys are all Electrofrogs. The Unifrogs and the Electrofrogs come with frog wires already attached and wrapped around the turnout. In a previous video, I showed how I transferred my track plan to the benchwork. So I am laying out all of the turnouts based on this track plan. I purchased some ribbon rail track alignment gauges to help me align the straight track. While I know straight track is not perfectly aligned in the real world, this will help me keep things better aligned considering the amount of track that I have on the layout. For the staging yard, I purchased enough turnouts to do 2 of my staging tracks. I have the double slip at the entrance of the staging area, and then I have a right-hand turnout which will give me the 2 tracks on the back side of the benchwork. Once I lay all of these turnouts that I've purchased, I will have 2 tracks in my staging yard. I'll have the main line and the runaround by the industrial area, and I'll have the main line and the runaround next to my main yard. This will enable me to take trains from the staging yard all the way around to the time saver. The next step is laying the flex track. I'm going to start at the time saver and work my way back around to the staging yard. So stay tuned as things are definitely going to get interesting. From the city that never sleeps, farewell, model citizens.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.